Thank you, Pepe, for this introduction. Do you hear me? Yes. I'm glad to see that there are some person in the room. Yesterday evening, I was really fed up, I have to say. I didn't want to see any bridge anymore, but I think you are even more passionate than I am. We were confronted in the last year in building in historical site, and it's something which I like a lot, because it's also in some way about sustainability. It's about, yes, reuse what already exists, enhance what already exists, readapt for the future, making this link between the past and the future. And it learns also, as a designer, to be humble, because we see that we finally are a small link, or we put a small layer more in a history of a lot of existing things, and builders which sometimes were masters. And I still learn a lot when I'm doing things in this site. Yes, I want to start and yes, make a sort of poetic journey in space and time. Okay. Yes, no? No. Ah. What? It works. I will start with project, old project, 2014. It started. It's still not finished. So time is important also to build things. What I want to explain with this is the resilience of infrastructure and the time frame we are dealing. And yes, how to work in this historical site, how to build up on history, because the history will help us to design, to find a design which makes sense. Coherency is a very important word for me, coherent. And the history helps us to bring this coherency. And finally, it's about the next generation. And this link between the past and the future. When you look at this image, you see several things. You see this old bridge. It was built around 11th century, so it will be 1,000-year-old. It's still in use. That's the time frame we are dealing with infrastructure. And maybe it's not the same bridge, but it's the same connection on the same place. The other bridge you see, it's 1865, 66, as all these bridges. When the train finally came into the city, and it's also in brick, and you see also the coherency of the material, and with this cathedral at the top of the village. This is the context. It's a UNESCO city. It's very beautiful. It's in Albi, south of France, the River Tarn. Another picture, and this valley, which is finally very deep also. The existing viaduct, and the question was to make a link, a pedestrian and bicycle link, attached to this viaduct. And this is, of course, an interesting question, because you are reusing an existing structure. You are not building a new one, because it has sufficient reserve to make this bridge. This is a situation from above, a medieval city in the organization also. You see different plazas here around the cathedral, but also small pocket plazas, which is typical for a city like this. And then a problem which was inherited by the construction of this viaduct. The city was cut in two. And this is an important place in the city because the city started here and it was the place where a castle was built. And there was a religious wars, and it's the Qatar, which was a sort of sect, or were beaten finally, and they demolished this castle, and they built up this cathedral, which is a sign of the power of the church. And this disappeared, and it was also cut by this new infrastructure of the viaduct. And that was the situation. So no quality anymore. We are outside the city. And yes, one of the big questions was, yes, how can we bring back quality to this important place, to this important viewing place also? You see it here on the Tarn, because you have the Tarn River here with a curve, and you have a very beautiful view there. This idea of creating small plaza, we wanted to use it also on the bridge, because it's one of the features of this city. And unite the place outside and inside of the existing viaduct. The important thing was to create a visual relation between the city and the water. It disappeared because this was not visible. We proposed to reopen this, to have a slope, and to have this relation with the water again. And here you see that it works quite well. It was also one of the questions of the competition. Do you do the bridge on one side or the other side? And we had no choice. By opening this view, it was natural to build the bridge on the other side. A morning view with the sun on this viaduct, and the materiality of the city. Everywhere this brick, very typical of the region. And we used it, we didn't reinvent the walls there, we used the same details with the same brick. But of course it was not possible for economical reason to use it everywhere. And for some part of the retaining wall, we did this concrete, which was made with the same stones, the same bricks, so it has the same materiality, also if it is not made in the same way. An image in the shadow, I have no better image of this wall. The bridge itself, yes, you have to react, to have a sort of dialogue between the new and the old. And instead of doing a straight line, there's a small undulation in this line, is this new bridge. I like this because it's a sort of, yes, a sort of respect of the existing, but it's also a way to show to people who pass where they are. So there's a relation between the span or spanning and the geometry, the user experience when you are passing the bridge. And these balconies, these small plazas, are also one of the features of this new bridge, and it gives new perspective to the existing city of Albi. And this was one of the important arguments when we defend the project before a UNESCO committee, so that finally we are not destroying the city, but we give the tourists and the people there possibility to view the city in another way. The connection between outside and inside, by passing through the first arch, we can recreate a sort of unity between the two parts of the city. Some section. it's a box girder, triangular, with a variable shape, and some renders where you see that there is a real good integration. And this vibration, it's a little bit like, yes, for me, this massivity of the existing, and this is sort of a jewel, sort of necklace, a sort of cloud, a mist around the existing viaduct. So we are not going in concurrence. We are using one another to enhance the quality. Color is important. I always choose the color on site because, yes, the reflection of the surroundings, the sky is very important. So never choose a color at the office. Go on site and choose. And you see that we have two different colors. We have this more beige and the more bluish. The bluish is for the underside and the other is for the top part of the bridge. And that's a sad story about this. It is not built yet. I took this photo 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So the bridge is finished. But the first contractor went bankrupt, the second also. So now we are waiting for the third one. That's also the reality of our profession. So we are dependent of other persons, and sometimes it works good, sometimes it does not work good. So waiting to be built or waiting to be rushed away, I don't know. Yes, this idea of U2, we have it also here. And this is in reality because there was a sort of temporary platform, and I think it will work quite well. Another thing, it's about the bridge in Poissy, where there was this historical link, and I want to tell something about these bridges, because it was not one bridge. Over the time, the bridges were destroyed, rebuilt, destroyed, rebuilt. But what is the permanency? What is the invariant? It is the connection. The connection stays always on the same place, but the bridges, they change over the time. And this is a project about this reflection over time and over, yes, how can we say something about this resilience of the existing. It was not possible to touch these piers in the water because everything is protected. And this is the other side, with something which we didn't understand in the beginning because it was, in the green and not in the water. And they put also some panels to explain, because otherwise you don't understand. And you see also that there were a lot of mills there on the bridges. So these bridges were also a sort of ecosystem because there was a lot of activity, commercial activity, and maybe we can learn something from that, that in ancient time, a bridge was not only a bridge, it was really an important place where everything met and also an economic activity of the region. Yes, it was in the time, it was a fort, and I think it evaluated to a sort of bridge. So it tells also something about this resilience of the connection. Yes, and we dream to reopen this and to have what we call the Seine tranquille, where it was possible to enjoy the water and to bring back some fish ecology, etc. We didn't succeed because it was so complicated now to change, because the laws are so restrictive now that you can't get back. So everything was straight in the 60s, and to reopen is impossible. So, yes. I want to talk about strategy of design or how generate forms. And in this bridge, it's very simple. It's two surfaces, 45 degrees. And it gives us a lot of the freedom to combine this with the structural effort. So if you need more height, you can extend one surface, but you can also choose to extend the other one. And this simple method brings us a lot of possibilities. So that's a drawing I made in the beginning to reuse the moment line or the efforts. It's a sort of hybrid between an arch and a beam, and this is sort of materialization of these moments in this beam. The blue surface is outside surface, the other surface is inside surface. And when you are drawing in 3D, it becomes a very organic form. And that's the miracle with this, is that finally something happens with this simple geometry of 45 degrees. So it's 100 meters, so it's quite, the whole bridge is 300 meters, but the main span is more than 100 meters, second span is 88 something. So it's quite a big span and a very, very flat design. And this quote from Bachelard about, that we wanted that the bridge activate the remembrance of these old bridges which existed there. So there was not one bridge, but there were tens, hundreds of bridges on this site, and this is a sort of symbolization of all these bridges. We are flying about the history of the site with the new bridge. Nagasaki, we are going to Japan, and Dejima. And Nagasaki was, Japan was closed, no stranger, no foreigner. And between 1641 and 1859, there was a Dutch harbor in Nagasaki, and it was a sort of exception. And you see it here on the picture on the right. You see the island. It is an artificial island of Dejima with Dutch ships here. And there is a small connection bridge to the mainland, to the city of Nagasaki. And this connection is the only connection to the world, to the outside world. This bridge didn't exist anymore. On the right side, you see Dejima. This has been widened because of flooding, so we are speaking now about 40 meters span. And the question was to create this historical link, to recreate this historical link to the Dejima island. So it's in Japanese, but you will understand. One of the problems was that we couldn't make any foundation on the Dejima side. So this was like holy ground. It was not possible to put a foundation. It was not, no negotiation. And of course, we are in a seismic area, so there's always the possibility that you have the ground going away. We finally proposed some cantilever bridge spanning from one side to the other, and which was stable under self-load. Of course, when you are putting people on it, you're getting a small reaction, but this was okay. We make a thin plate, a thin concrete plate, and that was okay. How can you use the existing to make a new bridge. And when you are looking at the constructions there in the Edo period, you see a lot of lines, horizontal line, vertical lines, and a small scale. Yes, 2 examples. I think everybody understands that also intuitively. And our design was finally about these lines, about this horizontal line and vertical line. So we combined these 2 and we tried to make a bridge with it. And yes, to this horizontal line, of course, we proposed again the structural need. So we increased the height where it was necessary and we decreased it where it was less needed. This is a part of the bridge. So it's a beam, so you see the web which was laser cut, and the railing here is a part of the web which is also laser cut. And then you have this horizontal stiffness. It's also about acceptance, acceptance of the people, of the community. And we worked a lot, and I say we, not we alone, with all the people there, to make a sort of acceptance of this new project, to explain why it was needed and the connection to the past. So this was the symbol of Dejima. Yes, and finally, I think it's very important. You have to bring the people within the process. And if you do it well, the things are accepted. You see here. And yes, in a lot of things. And finally, the day where it was erected. And you see half of Nagasaki was there to see the erection of this bridge. It came with a ship. It passed the city in the night. Also people looking in the night. And thousands of people looking for their new connection to the past. You see that the color changes with the sun. And you have this small dot lantern effect of the lighting. Single park, this is a little bit more funny. I think I have to go on quickly. It's about a circular park. The funny thing is that it's also linked to Dejima because there was a close link between the Hortus Botanicus and the island of Dejima, but okay. So in this single, it's the old waterway around Leiden. There is a qualitative nature, but it was not connected. And the idea of the city and of Lola landscape was to make the link of all these small parks. So we had to find a sort of idea which would link all these bridges, and bridges which had really other constraints, big spans, small plans, high. It was always different, and we had to have a sort of strategy to link everything. And this strategy finally resulted in sort of a design toolbox which we use. So we had not really a design, but we had a way to design. And there is also a sort of symbolic layer about this single, this circle, this sphere. And we wanted to use the sphere as a symbol of the earth, but also if you look at this, you see the whole world around, and a sort of link also to the Dutch culture. The structure, the catenary, which when you return, of course, becomes the arch. And this beautiful landscape artist, Martin Hill, to express this stability or instability. So we used this. with vertical posts. And this was our design toolbox, where it was possible to make all imaginable and not imaginable bridges. Variations in length, in inclination, skew bridge, variable width, combination, etc., etc., things in the railing. And finally, this is the result of the bridges. So it's in cotton steel and the balls are in stainless steel. This was a special because it was a mobile bridge, but the material remains the same. A very small bridge here. And maybe the most impressive and beautiful one, it's over the outer Rhine, so the old Rhine River. And this expression of the thrust line by these balls, which are structural, of course, and the last bridge. Titagel. I will be quick in Titagel because Bart already told things about, but it was about imagination. There is nothing to see on this site. So if you want to go there to see historic elements, there's nothing to see, but the landscape is really impressive. And so, as you know, we ended up with this cantilever bridge. And what I like with the cantilever bridge, it's a very old type of bridge because the arch bridge was invented maybe 3,000 years ago. The Romans brought it to Europe 2,000 years ago. But the Celts, they had these cantilever bridges already before. So it's very intuitive. You are taking elements and you are putting them to the void and you are advancing. So it's very intuitive. It works very well. And you see also that the first of fours, which has the same type of problem, a very big span, but you have small elements. You can handle only small elements, and it's a natural way to go. So again, we didn't invent something. We used a system which existed. About materiality, nature is very strong, but also these slates, you see it everywhere. And we were to the quarry, which is about 2-3 kilometers from there, and which is in use since the Roman time. This is a photo I took the first time I was there, and you see these slates staggered on edge with small plants in it. And this was inspiration for the deck. A photo of the deck. And we had stainless steel trays where this element was staggered in. It's about 7.5 centimeters, so they are not fixed, they are only posted. And I'm quite happy about this photo. You see that there are already these small plants coming here, and nature comes back also. So it will merge in this nature. So I'm quite happy about that. Cantilever, 35, 36 meters, 4.5 meter height. And color again, truth is on site. And this is William, our local architect. Building was, of course, not easy, so we did it finally with a cable crane or with our French friends from VLM, which has experienced it. It's about 4 to 5 tons we could lift. That was the maximum. So everything was designed to be in this range of 4 to 5 tons. A time lapse. It's quite funny to see. It's also quite funny to see the flexibility of the structure. Yeah, you see it also here up. We adjust a little bit. We put the slates are put in, the railing are put in, etc., etc. And then the big day, cleaning still a little bit. And I added yesterday evening this photo because it's a new king, but it was the Duke of Cornwall, and it was, or is, the landowner. Okay, so it was not our client, but he had a look on our design, and sometimes he had some suggestions, but it was okay. No, it was really okay. So there were, yes, some photos, and this is photo I like, coming from the north, and you see how it integrates, and it does not destroy the site, which was one of the big fears I had. And when you are going to the site, you see on the boards it's written. In the time it was Tintagel Castle, now it's Tintagel Bridge and Castle. So I'm quite happy about that. I will end with this. Landloper, it's not really in a historical site, but this is what the city wants. A promenade bridge, a bridge where the car is only at visit, it's only tolerated. So it's not really a footbridge, and this is, I think, one type of bridge we will have to design more and more in the time, because footbridge, bicycle bridge, we have other mobilities now, and I think in the future we will have still other things we cannot imagine today. So this shared slow mobility will be one of the design issues of the future. Finally, we ended with that. I will not go in detail about the process, but it was a participative process with the people there, and we ended with this, yes, UFO bridge, I don't know. It's quite a strange design, but it's very coherent. It's one surface, one shell surface of concrete. I wanted to show that for the use. It was about creating experience here in Madrid, and what happens when the designer leaves and when the bridge lives its own life. And I was there. A small thing we did. We realigned this bridge to the church, and to create also a relation between the city and this new bridge. It's very simple. It didn't cost anything, and I think it's highly efficient. Okay, what happens when the designer leaves the bridge? It's 1 year in the life of a bridge.
you.